Now it's time to discuss all the film headlines because our film expert and presenter of Kent Film Club, Chris Deacy, is here with us in the studio. Chris.
Hi, good morning both.
Good to have you with us. Now the biggest sort of film news at the moment is of course the Cannes Film Festival is currently ongoing. For people that don't know, what is the Cannes Film Festival?
Well, it's one of the big ones. I mean, often Cannes is with the famous the Palme d'Or. I mean, just looking back in history, Pulp Fiction, for example, won the Palme d'Or 30 plus years ago. And it's that kind of time where films that might be in contention the following year at the Oscars tend to do well. I mean, Anora, for example, which of course defied all the odds in winning Best Picture. Because, you know, we were talking about The Substance for week after week. It was almost like I thought Demi Moore's going to win. But it was Cannes that started off that whole phenomenon, really, that was Anora, the underdog that ended up, of course, winning all those top awards. So Cannes is steeped in movie history. And often you get the big names. Robert De Niro in the past, or Jodie Foster leading the juries.
It's almost like Cannes is kind of for the film buffs, for the people that really know their films. If a film's done well here, it's a good one. If it's maybe got all the Hollywood accolades, if it's got the Oscars and that, it's getting the sort of Hollywood hype, I suppose. But this is kind of where you're going to get the.
But often
nuggets.
you see the films here first. So this is where the premieres are. I mean, Mike Leigh, for example, with Brenda Blethyn, who of course is from Ramsgate. Think of a film like Secrets and Lies. People started talking about it in Cannes a whole year before it had its release, and then went on to win all those Oscars. And of course, I can speak about Sundance, which is in the snow, and Cannes, of course, is in tropical south of France. So it's having a film festival with all the whole red carpet treatment, but in a really exotic location. I've been to Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic. I've been to Locarno in Switzerland. I haven't been to Cannes yet. Maybe next year we should have a KMTV outing.
Lovely. I would love to go down to the south of France.
What an
It'd be
invite.
lovely.
With it, you said all the red carpet, the Hollywood stars, and some rules this year as well. They've said there's a ban on sort of nudity. You see lots of Hollywood stars turning up in very risky outfits, sheer outfits. They've also banned long trains on the carpet so that it's not there's not any traffic. They want people sort of free flowing and moving as well. Of course, it's a busy event. Do we see this often? These sort of rules coming in? Why now?
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm thinking of even like the Oscars. I remember Samantha Morton, who's a British actress, Oscar nominated a couple of times. She went to the Oscars, I think it was when she was nominated for Sweet and Lowdown, and she wore a T-shirt. I think it was a punk T-shirt as well. And of course, it was very much, it's a statement, but I mean, I suppose they're not going to turn you away if you're a nominee. But wasn't there a big thing about Adam Sandler this year? It was obviously all a setup, and he was there in his T-shirt, and he walked out and then started shouting, "Chamalay, Chamalay." But, the etiquette is important. But also, if you don't abide by the rules, that's going to be noticed in the same way as when you do. So of course it's all about glamour, but but it's fascinating that sometimes, of course, what the stars are wearing almost seems to shroud and envelop what actually the films that they're in are all about.
Yeah, it seems to go in a full circle where that would have never happened a long time ago. Now we're seeing lots more risky outfits, and now we've gone too far, and it feels like it's been brought back again. Yeah, and I mean, history repeats itself in that sense. And you always think of, I think of Cannes, I think of Grace Kelly, I think of Hitchcock, I think of To Catch a Thief. Not because it's necessarily filmed in Cannes, but it's the whole south of France thing. It's the glamour that comes with it. And of course, it's the opportunity for those movie stars to shine, to make their mark. I mean, we've had Tom Cruise at the BFI just this week, for example.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on to talk about Tom Cruise because at the Cannes Film Festival just last night they had the premiere of the new Mission Impossible film. You're very excited about this one's being released. Could be the last one for Tom Cruise.
Well, that's right, because of course it's called The Final Reckoning. So, but never say never again, as somebody once said. Well, and he's been at the BFI this week talking about it. I've seen a couple of them. They've been showing his very illustrious body of work. But no, I mean the Mission Impossible film. I mean that one has been generating headlines, of course, since Part 1 was released 2 years ago in July 2023. So there's a lot of buzz around this. And, you know, talking about, I mean, Tom Cruise has been nominated for Oscars many times. I mean, I don't think a film like Mission Impossible has, maybe outside of the technical categories, it's not really the sort of film that tends to do well in the acting stakes. But he's never won an Oscar. So you kind of feel that if it's his last one in this series, there might be a push. Like Dame Judi Dench, who was BAFTA nominated for playing M in her last outing in the Bond films.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And of course, we have to mention it. It was filmed partly here in Kent, historic dockyard Chatham, but people won't necessarily be able to sort of spot their home or spot the Pentagon shopping centre in the background, will they?
Well, I'd like to say that this is the reason I watch the films multiple times, so I can spot all those locations. Yeah. But that might be the excuse I'll use. So you can ask me week after week. Have you seen it, Chris? Have you seen it, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that comes out in less than a week's time. I think next Wednesday.
Yeah, and it's obviously you know, these big Hollywood blockbusters, these big franchises as well. Some people who haven't been watching them, you know, haven't seen the Mission Impossible films before, they might think, oh, I'll skip this one because I don't have the time to catch up with all the story. Is it one of those, do you think, or can people just go along and switch off and watch it?
Well, actually, ironically, I found that even watching the same one over and over again, I'm seeing more and more things. Okay. So I saw the first one that came out in '96. I go back that far, but I think I missed one or two of them somewhere in the middle, like maybe even number 4 I missed. However, they're very complicated, intricate films. I think they probably do stand on their own terms. But obviously, seeing the trailer even for this new one, you see all the clips back to the previous versions. Like in the Bridget Jones film, the new one, Mad About the Boy, at the end of the film, not giving anything away, you see the first outing, you see the Bridget Jones from 2001. So I suspect this film might be paying history. The same with the Bond film, No Time to Die, which had the Louis Armstrong, We Have All the Time in the World, from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and many nods to that during the film. So I suspect this film will be a nice way of tying together all those many loose ends from 30 years, would you believe it, of this franchise.
And one more thing to mention about this, Tom Cruise, when he was interviewed at Cannes, he avoided answering questions about Trump's proposed tariffs on films made outside the US. Of course, this is a film that was partly made outside the US. We spoke about it a bit last week. We still haven't heard whether or not Trump might go ahead with this or what effect this could have. But it would be such a shame if we didn't have these Hollywood blockbusters being made right on our doorstep.
Well, I'm happy to answer because Tom Cruise wouldn't. Well, no, I mean, I do think that it's going to be a negotiation. I suspect. I mean, at the end of the day, films are not made in America or not in America. Yeah. You have films outside of America with American distributors, and of course you have films partly. For example, are you going to raise the tariffs just on those parts, for example, filmed at Chatham Dockyard? I mean, that would be nonsensical. You can't impose 100% tariff on an entire film when that film is made in multiple locations. But I suspect that it will be less of a big deal down the line, as we're seeing with the tariff question more generally. I think it raised a lot of headlines, but then it seems to be simmering a bit at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, now switching gear just slightly, it's the first time we've seen you, Chris, since we had the new Pope elected. It feels like a long wait, and then now it feels like a long time ago as well now. But of course, Pope Leo, it's a cultural milestone. People were on chimney watch, the black smoke twice, then finally the white smoke as well. Were you watching on? What did you make of it?
I was actually I was in my car. So when they were talking about an American Pope, I did at first, because there were all those memes doing the rounds with Donald Trump and that ridiculous thing. And I thought, where's this going? And I was quite wrong-footed, because I was talking both to yourselves and on BBC about all the different runners and riders. And his name didn't really come up. But of course, retrospectively, it seems he seems very fitted for the role. I mean, of course, although he's Chicago-born, he has spent many decades in Peru doing a lot of missionary work. And I think that he's been a very popular choice. And of course, a lot made about his age. He's 69, which of course in the scheme of things is quite young for a pope, because the last two have been in their mid-70s. I think actually Pope Benedict, I think, was 78 in 2005 when he got the job. So the expectation is here that he'll be around for a bit longer, because some of the popes, John Paul II as well, have been quite frail in their last years.
Is there? Sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I was going to say, is there a benefit from having maybe a younger pope, in that he could be a pope for the new times? Having that American background as well, maybe something that Westerners, US, would we kind of relate to more?
Well, actually, what I remember hearing on the radio just after he was elected is people who went to school with him who are now about to turn 70, and they're thinking, well, we were going to go to Europe, so they're from Chicago, and it's like, hang on, one of our classmates is Pope, but it seems really inappropriate to then issue, an invitation, or can we come and see you? But the fact that people are having that sort of conversation, there's a relatability aspect. Now, Pope John Paul II was 58 when he became Pope in 1978, so he was pretty young, but he lasted until 2005, and he was well into his 80s, and he was quite unwell. So we're used to seeing quite elderly popes, but he seems quite full of life at the moment. So I think it's in a good way, it's capturing people's attention.
Do you think he'll continue the legacy that sort of Pope Francis has left behind as well, a more liberal sort of look on it? Because that was the discussion. Are we going to see the way the Pope leads and guides change now with the new leader, or will he sort of continue that? Where do you think he lies?
I think he's definitely more progressive. I think that's pretty obvious from what he said. I mean, of course, he's spoken very warmly about Pope Francis, but I mean, there was talk that whoever got the job might call themselves Pope Francis II. He didn't go for that, but he's gone for a name Leo, who's steeped in history. There's been, rather more than a dozen Leos before him. So I think the expectation, because of the South American connection as well, because when you think the majority of the world's Catholics have been in South America, but there's only been one Pope, and that was the most recent one, Francis, who's hailed from that part of the world. So I think spiritually the expectation is that he understands Latin America. So he's from Chicago, but really he's seen to be a more sort of a Peruvian connection. So I think in that sense, he'll bring a different vision to the church than all the popes before. I mean, Pope John Paul II was Polish. All the popes for him were pretty much all Italian. So we've seen quite a sea change in the last few decades.
And just very quickly, Chris, before we have to go to a break, any names that we can mention from the Kent Film Club, people should be watching out for these episodes coming up?
Well, we have an episode, we will have Marion Stewart in a forthcoming episode, who is coming all the way over. She's Kent-based originally, but coming all the way over from Cyprus. So fantastic.
Amazing. All right, lots to look out for. All right, see you after this break.